so many of you.
Wow.
Wow.
Nice Order of the Sparrow.
I'm astounded there's so many people here. I thought everybody passed out by this point.
Wow.
How's everybody's day 3 of RTX going? Glad to hear it. My name is Gray, and I'm the head of animation at Rooster Teeth. And I voice a lot of characters that will live on in our memories or in Chibi.
Hi, I'm Miles Luna. As voice acting goes, I play Jean Arc, Felix, and David. Jesus, I'm tired. And a bunch of other jerks, so thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Barbara Dunkelman. I voice Yang Xiaolong in RWBY and RWBY Chibi. I voice Neris in Camp Camp, Jensen in Red vs. Blue, Orf in the late great X-Ray and Vav.
Yeah.
And I also have a little role on Fairy Tail as Cosmos.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon McCormick. I was looking around. I realized I am the ranking member of the voice cast.
Yeah, you are.
I have been doing voices for Rooster Teeth for 11 years. So
you should be running the panel.
no. Anyway. And my roles keep getting smaller and smaller. So.
Hi, I'm Jen Brown. I play Pyranikos on RWBY. Yay! Also Lisa Lavender, my personal favorite. Agent Carolina on Red vs. Blue. I'll never get tired of that. Arid on Camp Camp.
You're so cool.
The coolest girl at camp.
So cool. And I also do a little voice on Nomad of Nowhere, but that hasn't come out yet. That's really fun. And I was also I was on X-Ray and Bev for like a short period of time. I had a little small character, one-off Diamond, and
The
hey, the
hardcore
one
Diamond
person.
fan
Yeah.
out there.
Diamond. Yeah, I think that's. Oh, and RWBY Chibi.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Elizabeth Maxwell. I voice Agent Ohio in Red vs. Blue. Thanks, Shannon.
The greatest.
Winter Schnee in RWBY. Quiet! Scout in Nomad of Nowhere. My little desert flower. And Nikki in Camp Camp. Woo!
Hi, I'm Michael Jones. I voice myself every day of my life. I'm the voice of some fun little character, Sun Wukong in RWBY. I play a precocious little scamp, Max, in Camp Camp. Mogar in X-Ray and Vav. And head moonball operator in Achievement Hunter. Oh, and Sting in the show Fairy Tail, if you heard of it.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Jones, and
Not too much. I have to go home with her.
Sorry. I play Ruby Rose in RWBY. I play Vanessa Kimball in Red vs. Blue. Thank you. Gosh. I am Space Kid in Camp Camp. Yeah. I am Hilda in X-Ray and Vav. Rest in peace. Yeah. And now I guess it's officially been announced, but I will be playing Razzle in Genlock.
Hi, I'm Samantha Ireland, and I play. I know who I'd play. Nora in RWBY. I forgot I was speaking. I used to play CT in Red vs. Blue, and
And if you don't know this, but I play all 3 of the Flower Scouts in Camp Camp.
Yeah.
Who had some really fun cosplayers this weekend. I don't know if you saw the walking around. They had the cookies and everything.
Good cookies, yeah.
Yeah. Hey!
You were so cute.
Shout out to all the cosplayers, by the way. It's been a fantastic weekend. Oh, my God. You guys are amazing. That's right. And then now, just because we are going to do some Q&A here in a little bit, but because it's usually like one of the first questions that comes up is, how did you get started in voice acting? Or what was it like the very first time you were in the booth for Rooster Teeth? And then what would be like your top tip that you would pass along to somebody if they were trying to get into the biz? Start at that end.
What was the first one?
So Sam, how did you get into the biz? What was your very first gig, or do you remember what it was like the first time that you did voices for Rooster Teeth?
Well, it's the same thing. They just Rooster Teeth had an open casting call a couple years ago. I think it was back in like 2011, and that was my first one. I hadn't done voice acting. I didn't actually realize that the audition was for voice acting. I thought everything was for live action. But I was wrong, and because I was like, man, that's badass. I'm like auditioning for freelancer. I was like, look at me. No, it was just for voice. So I auditioned for Carolina and CT during then, and I was able to book CT, and that was my first time voice acting too. I come from theater. So, theater all the way. So that was my first experience with it. Voice acting was with Rooster Teeth. But it was a different atmosphere than it is now. It's so different. It was just Bernie in a booth, and that was it. So it's definitely changed over the years. And
at least you didn't have to record in his closet, though. You can't.
I know. I did not do that. That would be strange. I'm pretty sure my husband would be like, "Why are you going to a strange man's closet to record lines?" But yeah. But it was my first professional experience voice acting, and it was still like very professional. But yeah, like nowadays, it's like, man, it's a sweet suit, and like we get to go in, and everyone's there with you in another room. So that was it. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I was there with Sam at that first audition. We were right next to each other.
Yeah. That's how Jen and I met.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember thinking, oh my God, she's so good.
No, I thought that.
There's no way.
Well,
and that's what she thought.
I heard you audition for Carolina. I was like, there was only like 2 lines. Too.
Yeah, there was
I
only
like,
2 lines.
Oh, she sounds badass. And then it was like a huge role. I was like, man, she got it. That girl before me totally got it. And you did. And now we're like really like friends. So it's all good.
Aww.
That's great.
They're desperately trying not to hug each other across the table right now.
We are twinsies unintentionally. We both have little embroidered dresses
Me
on.
too. I was going to tell you that.
For me, it was very similar in that Rooster Teeth is the first time that I ever had any voice acting experience at all. I grew up 15 minutes away from Funimation, and I was like, wow, that'd be awesome to get into voice acting. But I was like, yeah, Lindsay, be real. That's never going to happen. Okay, cool. So when Monty approached me and said, hey, I want to make an anime, I was like, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. He was interested in me auditioning for RWBY, Blake, and Pyrrha, actually. So he brought me into the booth and just kind of wanted to make sure that I could perform in the way that he wanted me to. So he decided to settle on RWBY, and from there, the rest is history, really. Yeah.
I've always been interested in voice acting, but I never really pursued anything. You know, I was big into video games and like voiceover and cards. I don't know if you knew that. But it was just something cool. You know, I'd always watched it growing up, but not until, getting to Rooster Teeth again. I had no furniture in my apartment, so I would just live at the office all day, and the only other person there was Monty, and he was telling me about the show, and he's like, yeah, you're going to be in it. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I'll audition. He's like, yeah, you can audition, but I mean, I'm just going to give it to you. I was like, I had a pretty like distinct voice. And I guess like my experience before that was a lot of Xbox Live party chats. A lot of really unpleasant messages to people after a game of Halo 2. They had it coming. And yeah, it really just started from there, where then we started the show, and they made Monty do auditions. So he's like, all right, you have to do an audition. And I walked into the booth, and I was like, okay, so he's like, yeah, you got the part. It was like he checked it off on a box. Yeah, and I've just been lucky enough to work at Rooster Teeth since then and improve on that and actually do a bunch of other characters.
I started out in on-camera work and made the transition into voiceover when I moved to Austin, and very aggressively marketed myself to anybody within like a 50-mile radius who would hire me. Well, I guess higher than that, because I went after Funimation, and eventually was lucky enough to get to audition for Attack on Titan, and that was one of my first voiceover roles, is as Ymir in Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
And then I was also lucky enough to have a mutual friend with Gray and Cohen, and they were like, there's some Attack on Titan fans over at Rooster Teeth. You should go take a tour. And I was like, Teeth of the what? So I went over, I took a tour. I was like, there's something going on here that I don't know about. That's really fucking badass. And was lucky enough to land an audition for RWBY. And that was my beginning with Rooster Teeth, and I've never looked back.
I also started in the theater, like a lot of us up here. I ran a theater company in Austin for 6 years that was very successful, called Vestige Group. I was very focused on doing a lot of theater stuff, and then I guess about 9 years ago, I was like, I should probably, try voiceover and film and the other aspects of acting as well. Be a little bit more well-rounded than just theater. And I started realizing very quickly how well voiceover worked for me. I'd always been that kid that did voices constantly. I just didn't think about going into voiceover until, I'd already been acting for a while. And I was like, duh, why hadn't I thought about this? And the Rooster Teeth was the first big voiceover audition I went on, and I landed it, and I was like, oh, okay, great. This is awesome. I'm going to keep auditioning. And then I started working for DC Universe Online, and I've been working for them doing various voices, including Harley Quinn, for about 6 years. I had a heart attack when that happened. Harley was like my dream role, so it's pretty nuts that I get to do that in even a small way. So yeah, I started in theater and then came into Rooster Teeth and got lucky enough to get in with all these lovely people and make a lot of great work, and just continued working with other companies as well. It's been nice.
So I'll kind of tackle the how'd you get into it with also the advice part of it, or like how you get into voiceover and voice acting. And it's going to be different for everybody, but like a lot of these folks, I came out of the Austin theater community, and my first voice acting gig was back in 2001. There used to be a satellite studio of ADV here in Austin called Monster Island, and that studio was like basically it was a 3-man shop, and I think the main office in Houston would farm out various projects, and that 3-man shop was essentially run by 3 like experimental Austin theater artists doing the translations, and then the sound engineer and the director. And they just brought in everybody that they knew from the Austin theater community. So I got an audition and a gig that way. And so I was in Get Backers and Wedding Peach way back when. Any Akabane fans?
I watched Wedding Peach.
Fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I played like the weird Salvador Dali time clock guy, if you remember that episode. It was like one episode. And then a few years after that, this was back when Rooster Teeth was like 7 employees, and Asaf Ronan was like, who voices the counselor, was working as a contractor doing some freelance graphic design for Rooster Teeth, because again, they had like 7 employees. And this was when Recovery 1 was getting off the ground, and they were like, we are just a bunch of game dudes. We can't do we need real actors to come in. a SOF. So when you're like, hey, I don't have any real actors, I know, I'll ask the contract graphic designer if he knows anybody. And he did, though, because they asked him because the SOF is an improv guy. And so my improv partner, Shayna Merlin, came in and we auditioned for Wash and South together. And I think we might have been the only people to audition together, so we were kind of a lock. So we got the role, and I thought Wash was going to die after 4 episodes, and it's 11 years later, and I'm still here. But my advice to everybody, if you're like, I don't know what to do, I want to do voiceover, but I just live in this small town, and what do I do? My advice to you is like, find your local theater community, find your local improv community, find your local bunch of art weirdos, and hang out with them, and don't be a dick, and get recommended for gigs, because that's how I've gotten all my gigs. So, yeah. Even though sometimes I can maybe be a dick. I don't know.
Yeah, it was similar for me than it was for Lindsay with RWBY. Luckily, we just knew Monty, and he liked us and wanted to cast us. And it was funny, before I even officially auditioned, the Red trailer came out that had all of our names on the end screen. And I remember, I think there was some arguments that were happening with Monty and some of the producers on the show being like, we didn't audition these people. Their names are on the credits. Like, what are we supposed to do now? So thanks, Monty, for doing that. Kind of locked us in. But yeah, with Yang, when I first auditioned, I had never voice acted before. And Miles and Carrie probably remember this, but when I auditioned, I felt like voice acting, I had to be changing my voice in a way, because that, in my mind, was what voice acting was. I didn't realize it could just be your normal speaking voice, just exaggerated. So I actually first read Yang a little higher pitched. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Barely. I remember just being like, you don't have to do that much. Yeah. It was like that scene from Forgetting Sarah Marshall where you're out like serving. It's like, no, do nothing. No, do nothing. You're doing too much. Do nothing.
So I did a couple other takes, but just in my normal voice, and they ended up liking it. So I got the parts. But that wasn't the only role at Rooster Teeth that kind of luckily fell into my lap. The other one was Jensen, because...
Well, no.
Wait.
That did not fall into your lap. I saw the video and was like, I need this voice.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so when I was in college and I was staying up way too late studying and I was kind of loopy, I decided to make these videos with a character that I created named Jackie Mittens.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
But
she talked like this, and she was really excited about everything.
And her hair was up in like a big...
Yeah, and I put like a bunch of like little clips and berets in my hair, and I was like...
You were like the Irma Gerd girl.
Irma Gerd, exactly.
Yeah.
And I showed those videos to Miles, regrettably.
Yeah, we were working really late on season 11 of RVB, and I saw that, and I like laughed with tears in my eyes due to just like hysteria and sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And I was already trying to think of characters for the lieutenants for season 12, and was toying with the idea of a nerdy one, and I was like, well, there she is.
She's ready for battle in the flesh.
That was fun.
Sorry, I spat all over.
No. It's funny. That's a great segue into, because the reason her name is Jensen was because that was the name that I thought would be funniest to say with that voice. Jensen.
And you had to give her the commanding officer of
Simmons.
Yep. I constantly, like, every Jensen line is written with the intent to make it difficult for you to say, sorry, sir. It's just Jensen here.
I'm really happy these front rows aren't closer, because
I'm quite damp now.
The splash zone.
But yeah, just to finish up, it kind of like opened the door to do more auditions at Rooster Teeth and more voice acting in general. That's what led to auditioning for Funimation and getting a role on Fairy Tale, and then also getting to audition for Camp Camp and other shows that we're doing. So it's just been a really nice way to break into it.
Yeah. I can't speak super academically to it, because I also was just incredibly fortunate to be in the right place at the right time and have the ability to do some silly voices for Jean and stuff. But I guess if I were just to give any advice, it's don't be afraid to look dumb. Don't ever be afraid to look dumb. You do whatever you have to do to get that character right, and don't that's it. Like, I voiced Felix, the ruthless badass killer mercenary. I'm not that. but I had to go in and pretend like I was, and just forget the fact that you're whoever you are. You're gonna be someone else when you go into that booth for a little bit, and don't be afraid how you look.
Wait, I chop my hand off every time I record for Quartermaster.
Me too.
God damn it.
So hopefully this actually sounds familiar to some people who are, if you're thinking about getting into voice acting. I mean, when I was a kid, I would record all my favorite movies and television shows and like listen to them as I either fell asleep at night or while playing, so that, you know, when you're playing with your toys, you can actually kind of sound like the character that you're trying to play as. And, you know, later in life, another theater dork. And, just did that for years and years. And kind of figured out quick as I tried to get into the biz, I wasn't cut enough to be like, you know, leading man handsome type, and I wasn't quite goofy enough to be a successful character actor. But hey, you sound great, why don't you hop on the mic? So, did that and was doing, commercials and industrial type stuff until I was able to start doing narrative at the Monster Island Studios for ADV that Shannon was just talking about. They asked, my agent called and said, well, hey, you know, I don't know if you want to do this. This might not be your bag. I can't get a lot of other people interested in it because they'd rather go do the gigs that actually pay. And, you know, maybe do you want to do this thing called anime? And I said, heck yes, get me in the booth. And that's why I got started doing anime. So you can go look online, just did a bunch of stuff in the 90s and aughts and whatnot. And then as far as Rooster Teeth is concerned, my very first gig for Rooster Teeth was replaced by the guys from Smosh. Oh man, you'd be great for these soldiers. Come here, do the comic bit. Yeah, cool. Oh hey, Smosh is visiting. They'd be totally great. We should have them record for that. And which happens in the industry sometimes. So you got to get ready for that. And then as far as RWBY was concerned, I'd been doing VFX and editing on a whole bunch of projects and been working with Monty. And then one late night on RWBY 10, Monty said, hey, I just kind of realized you were the guy from like Rurouni Kenshin and some other stuff. I'm like, yeah. And his question was, what are you doing here? I'm working with you, man. And he said, yeah, well, anyways, we're working on a project called RWBY, and I got something in mind. We'll talk later. And that's how that ball got rolling. In terms of advice, yeah, kind of like what Miles was saying, and Shannon as well, in terms of meet with other people in your area, and and don't be afraid to be silly and push yourself outside your whatever feels natural. You're going to have to do some crazy things from time to time, and just don't be afraid. But lastly, you know, go get like a USB mic off of Amazon for $20-30 and get a pair of headphones and just get used to listening to yourself and playing around with your voice. And it's going to take some time for that to stop feeling weird. Yeah, it's going to feel weird. Everybody feels that way. Don't worry about it. And just keep going. And then once you've kind of done a bunch of voices, hopefully you started hitting the record button. Put little snippets of that together, like, 5-10 seconds of this or that voice, put them back to back and put it online. Congratulations, you just recorded a demo reel for the first time. And that's the first time that you're going to do it. So, barrier to entry in terms of, you practicing and the methodology for getting what you sound like out there has never been easier. So don't let that be the thing that holds you back. Even, a first pass rough draft iteration is going to be better than you not doing it at all. So get started. The other thing, one of my favorites is something that I did during high school is you can also donate your time to charity. There's, back when I was doing this was before audiobooks were quite so easy to get around, but there's still a whole bunch of ways you can contribute. What I did was I made audio recordings of comic books for the blind and did all the voices and stuff like that. So go find your local center and just help them out. Yeah. But anyway,
so hey, can I speak to that? If you want to work on your range, I've discovered as a parent, one of the best ways to work on a variety of voices is to read comic books and do voices for all the different characters, because you like to keep them distinct. It's like, oh man, I read Bone to both of my children, all of the stack, and dude, that's the best voice work I've ever done, and it was just in my kid's bedroom.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to do a little exercise right now. They don't know that we're going to do this, but I figure before we jump into Q&A, I need a little help from the people here on the front row. We're going to read a scene from RWBY.
No, we're not. Wait, what?
What? Okay. What are we doing?
What?
Reading a scene from RWBY, apparently.
Yeah, they're like, what? What
But-
are we doing?
oh, okay,
What the hell do we sign up for? Here's the thing. They can't do the character that they do for the show if they happen to do something for RWBY. So I need I need you to tell me who should voice Ruby Rose besides Lindsay.
Michael.
All right.
That's awesome.
That's so good.
Are we going to be emulating their voices or just using?
So, and then what you guys can choose is whatever voice you want to do. You can either, like if Michael, for example, wants to take a shot at doing Ruby herself, he can do that. Or if he wants to do like, what if Max were reading the part or whatever.
Okay,
And just,
I got you.
you guys get to decide however you want to play it.
Right. Okay.
Cool?
Yeah.
This gonna work? I think maybe. I'm making this shut up as I go. All right.
We get to
Cool. I need a Weiss.
patient on that character as well.
Let's do Barbara.
Barb is Weiss.
I'm rich.
How about Blake?
Shannon. Shannon's Blake.
Wait, I'm Blake.
No.
Yang?
Shannon's Blake.
Miles. What?
Which character?
Yang.
And how about John?
I want to do a shoe for Dare.
Oh.
Who should play Jean right
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Nora.
now? So Sam? Yeah, so Sam's gonna play Jean.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to see the cat faunus and the dog getting along so well together here. But who do you think should do Nora?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth? Pyrrha?
Let's do Lindsay.
And over here, who should do Ren? Yeah, who's left? Yeah, sorry. Jen. All right, so Jen for Ren. Jess, you approve? Cool. All right.
Okay.
All right. I'm glad that worked out. Process of elimination is awesome.
Okay.
Gray. Who was I again?
And I'm gonna
Pyrrha?
narrate. Oh, no, Pyrrha. Did I skip Pyrrha somehow?
No, I think I'm playing Pyrrha. I just couldn't hear.
Right.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
Sweet.
You're
Great.
Pyrrha.
Okay.
I'm good.
So here you guys go. Touchscreen.
Wait, and then we do their voice?
However you want to do it. However.
Be an actor.
yeah.
Find the role to you.
So, can we do a check so we know? So
Circle
I'm
around
Blake.
here.
Weiss.
Yang.
Ren.
Nora.
Ruby.
I'm Pyrrha Nikos.
Start up here on 62.
Jean.
Cool, and it's touchscreen. All you got to do is just.
Oh, is it fancy?
And I'm gonna read you guys in.
He's gonna read us in.
Yang, you're gonna have the first line. Okay, go. All right, we ready for this? I have no idea how this is gonna work.
All right.
I apologize in advance.
All right. Boy, my
Right.
eye range is really rough today. All right.
Yeah.
My voice isn't that high.
You're right. I have an idea.
So everybody. Oh.
I have an idea. You gonna read?
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the first episode from RWBY Volume 3. It is exterior fairgrounds, Simple Walk day. Team RWBY sits down at the portable version of the Simple Walk from Volume 2.
That's the stage.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I haven't read this in a couple
All right,
years.
all right.
So,
I'll have a bowl of the regular, please. I was told we could read it however we want.
Ooh, I'll take the same.
sure. Another giant bowl flops down on the table. Weiss looks over.
Do you have anything with low salt?
Bam! Another giant bowl.
Okay.
Blake and the chef make eye contact. She nods, and he knows. He slaps out another bowl. Weiss hands over her credit card. They all look to her happily as the chef walks to the register.
Oh, Weiss, what's the occasion?
Considerate thanks for sending me to the doubles round.
And the team looks happily to their bowls. It's been a good year. Just as they begin to dig in, swish! Weiss's credit card ninja stars in and sticks to the table between Blake and Weiss's owls. Blake's star eyes pop. Shopkeep. Shopkeep. Ugh, clears his throat. Girls look to shopkeep. It flashes the word decline on the register.
What? How could my card be declined? I was barely into my monthly allowance.
Shopkeep takes back Blake's bowl. She gasps. Lungly outstretches her arm after the last food.
Maybe I could help.
Which is when Team Juniper walks up to the noodle shop, Pyrrha's card in hand. Weiss stares down at her card, embarrassed and confused, but Ruby throws her arms into the air.
Pyrrha!
No, you don't have to.
Blake looks desperately and ferociously at Yang.
But she could.
Well, I think you all earned it after that battle.
Mind if we join you?
Cut to, time has passed, and there are now 8 empty bowls on top of the countertop of the Simple Walk, and Ruby and Juniper sit in various positions at their stools, all full to the point of bursting. Rin picks his teeth with a toothpick. Jean is especially stuffed.
Are you sure it's wise to have eaten before a fight?
Of course. It will give us energy.
Which is when Nora burps. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, if I barf, I'm blaming you.
Aim it at the enemy.
Nora, that's disgusting. But if you do feel the urge.
Got it.
Well, we should be off.
So, you think you guys are ready?
Of course, we've got a world-renowned fighter on our team who's basically a ninja. I can bench press 5 of me. John's were trained all year. Our weapons are awesome. Glinda barely yells at us anymore. John.
Are you gonna take that?
Well, she's not wrong.
I'm kidding. He knows I'm kidding. Don't be so nervous. The worst that could happen is we lose. Then it's just a few more years of walking around school with everyone knowing we're failures, and our friends will slowly abandon us to preserve their social status. We won't be able to show our 5 in classes, and no one will sit with us in the cafeteria. Ren and I have no parents, so we have no home left to go, and they'll be officially renamed Team Lucifer. Team Lucifer, that's really funny.
Nora groans and slams her head down into the table, joining Jean.
So, yeah. We're feeling pretty good.
Don't fret. If anything, we should be looking forward to a fight with actual guidelines and not murders.
Yeah. Don't sweat it. We've all faced way worse before.
He sounds like this at the end of every RTX.
Yeah.
Blake counts on her fingers.
Let's see. Grim invasion. Violent extremists. A destructive sociopath.
And that's all while we're still in training. Imagine what it'll be like when we graduate.
Maybe then I'll be able to pay for a meal.
Oh, it's so much sadder in that voice.
It's so much sadder.
An announcement blares over the fairgrounds PA.
Would Team Juniper please report to the battlegrounds immediately?
Yes, like they were scheduled to several minutes ago.
Well.
That's really good.
Sorry.
Really good.
Joel.
Oh, really good. Damn.
So good.
Well, it looks like this is it.
Go get him!
And scene. Thanks. And if that doesn't inspire you to join the voice acting industry.
That was maybe the best Joel impersonation I've heard in a long time.
And I haven't had nearly enough coffee yet today.
I can't wait to voice the next volume of RWBY.
Oh God, there's 2 of me.
Wow. Blake, I'm so happy you're back.
Yo, I like Misty and junk.
Yeah.
Barbara.
Hey, what are you guys doing over there?
Hey, is it Team Booby or Team Ruby?
I don't know. Hey, what are you gonna do?
Barbara, you get a lot of good yangs. I really like where Miles
It's like
went with
3
that.
yangs over here.
Yeah.
I like Michael's yang too.
This is my yang. Hey, sis.
That sounds like Mr.
Let's fight the
Meese's.
Glim.
That sounds like a dying cat.
Quarter
sister all of a sudden. Wait. This is giving me an idea. What's like everybody's favorite funny voice to do on this panel?
Oh. What?
Like
What's
funny voice
just
in
like that
general?
has nothing to do with Rooster. What's just one of your favorite voices that you do all the time?
Oh, this is my favorite voice. This panel's Garbo.
It's been a while, but I used to do a pretty good Marge Simpson.
That's really good.
It's been a minute.
Good.
Yeah.
Does a baby crying count?
Yeah, do it.
Hey, somebody left a baby over here.
Sam was cringing so hard doing that whole thing.
Oh yeah. Around the house, I like to do my over-allergic kid a lot.
God, I have one too.
Yeah, it's really fun. I think everybody has like some version of like the allergy kid.
I know.
It's always been my favorite.
I think
I
all
don't
of
know.
us.
I have one too. I love this voice. So
It's really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And you can always do a lot of really gross vocal fry with it.
I know it's
And I
so
like
damaging
that.
to your vocal cord.
Feel the boogers.
Yeah.
This is like you can chew on it in the back of your voice.
Oh, God.
Were we supposed to go to Dungeons and Dragons camp together? Are you the other campers? Are you the one that stole my die last year? You're
best
dead to
guy.
me.
Did
I
you
was
guys
never
get what
here.
I had?
What's yours, Lizzie?
I said, did they get what I had?
Yeah.
I don't know how funny it is, but I want to know if anyone would ever subscribe to a bit like a Barry White ASMR channel. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, good evening.
I don't know what voice it is, but sometimes I just like wander around my apartment going, oh yes, this will do nicely. I can't.
Like Marvin the Martian.
I can't do it very well right now. It's like a really like fabulous Marvin the Martian.
Oh, that's great.
I sometimes really like to do a kind of weird baby voice. I don't, this really freaks my boyfriend out. That's really fun.
Well,
Good.
I already did one, but no,
you're
you got
good.
one, Lizzie.
Yeah. I have a couple that I go to. One is you just heard me doing for Pyrrha, which is literally just like the movie phone voice, like, "Hi, thanks for calling." Wow, okay, I'm white.
I call that the Vivian Pickles voice. The Vivian Pickles.
The other one I like doing too is just a dumb like I'm nervous and shy, so it's like, "Oh hey, how's it going, guys? Okay, that's fine. You don't have to talk to me or anything. That's all right. All right, bye."
You're leaving out the best one. Your
Michael
killer,
loves my Al Pacino impression.
killer
It's horrible.
Pacino
Oh my God,
Scarface.
please do it. Do it. Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Do it.
It is so bad. But sometimes Michael will say something sassy to me, and I go, "Oh, okay. You want a piece of this? You cockroach."
That's great.
And on that
You
note-
know, one that I slip into a lot, and most of my friends will absolutely agree that I do this. Is I can't help but do the Coach Z. Hey there, ho there. How's everybody doing there? Hey there.
Oh, yeah.
How's it going there? Hey.
my God.
Coach Z there. It's my favorite one to do. I don't know. I
Oh,
just,
hey, Coach Z, get the hell out of here, dude. It's strong bag.
Oh, there, Bubsy.
I'm like-
Hey, watch out there.
Checking.
Hey there,
Hey.
strong bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Come on there, Fahuku gods.
It's funny that you did that voice though, because like my go-to, especially whenever I do any sort of like improv scene, I have a character that's always smoking, and a lot of people equate it to Elise's character in Twits and Crits. I'm like, hey, what are you talking about? And I'm just like constantly ashing a cigarette. Listen, we gotta brainstorm this new movie pitch that we're gonna be doing. It's no voice. It's just like a stupid impression of someone who smokes.
I'm a big jazz fan. So when you watch jazz documentaries, they always talk to these guys who are like bebop legends from like the 40s and 50s, and they've all like destroyed their voices in nightclubs. And so like everybody, like Miles Davis used to talk like this. You could barely understand a word he would say because it was like, oh, what the fuck happened to his fucking throat?
I'm so afraid that's gonna be me.
Oh my.
Basically, Miles Davis went to RTX every day and he sounded like Miles. Hey. Miles Davis, Miles Luna, they're the same guy.
I was named after him, actually.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
So I'm faded. Shit.
That sounds so painful.
I
know.
have just
Sounds
one
so-
more. So I went to New York City in high school for like a little trip, and the tour guide, we did one of those double-decker buses. I really loved the way that she spoke, and she talked about the Chrysler Building all the time. Like we passed by it so often, and it was sparkling like a diamond in the sky. and she's lived with me in my heart for so long. And my husband's from Connecticut, and he hates that voice that I do. He's like, shut the hell up.
That's no fun to talk like that, though.
It is, right?
It's so fun.
My God, it was gorgeous. The Chrysler
Yeah, the
Building.
Chrysler Building.
There's like
shining on a beacon on a hill.
there's like diphthongs inside a diphthong.
yeah.
It's like it's a triphthong. There's like three of them.
Diphthongs.
It's beautiful.
All right, we got a little time left. Let's do some Q&A. It was just calmly, reasonably, and in a chill fashion. Approach the mics.
While they're lining up, too, I can tell you right now, of all the people that work on Camp, their favorite voice is it's Nerf. Because like whenever we're reading through the scripts, like I tend to try and do voices for everybody, but not everybody will do that. But everybody will do Nerf's voice whenever it comes to one of his lines. Like, so David says this, and there's this. Oh my God, you guys! This is seriously a problem, and I will not stand for it. Blake has so much fun with that voice.
I don't know. I kind of think Jeremy's a little.
I think everyone can do a Jeremy.
Jordan really doesn't miss a chance to do Jeremy farts.
I'm so sorry. Cool. We'll start over here on my right.
Hey guys, first thanks for doing this panel. This has been really fun so far. My question for you is...
We'll fix that.
My question for you is, you've had to deliver a lot of lines that are difficult either physically or they're hard to get the gravitas of the situation. So my question is for you, from the perspective of a voice actor, what do you do either physically or mentally to get in the state to deliver those difficult lines?
A lot of cigarettes and whiskey. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about me.
For like physically demanding ones, I'll do. So I actually had nodes in my vocal cords when I was 14. So I went through what I called super puberty, and I had to learn a lot of vocal exercises. And one that helps me a lot is you hum at your absolute like lowest register, your lowest note. Hum so that like either the tip of your nose or your lips kind of like vibrate a little bit, and slowly go all the way up to your very highest pitch. It'll take a few breaths to do it, and then go all the way back down, and it kind of stretches it out, and that's how you get David's scream when he gets hit by a bus.
It could be really challenging to do some because you can't move too much, otherwise you're going to rustle with the mic or your clothes are going to shake and it's going to disturb the actual voice recording. But for me, I think the most taxing one was the scream I had to do in Volume 3 when Yang is trying to save Blake from Adam, and she obviously gets something cut off of her body.
Her pinky toe.
But like I remember Miles and Carrie distinctly saying like, this is literally like the loudest you have to scream, like just give it everything. And my face was red, I was sweating, like all my body was tensed up. But for the most part, like I try to get like really loose before a session, just so I shake off any nerves and anything like that. If I'm doing season 4 or 5 Yang, I'm in a hoodie and I kind of look a little more emo, just to get in the mood.
I was going to say, to make sure that we get at least a few questions, and we'll do this lightning round the whole way. So.
Yeah. Cool. I just try to put it in my body. And if it's like the emotional stuff, I mean, you just kind of try to have to put yourself mentally in this state of, like, Wash had to do a lot of stuff this year that was like, like emotionally demanding on him, and I would just like think about all the times people lied to me in my life. I don't know why I looked at Jen when I said that.
It's because I know all your secrets.
Oh, that's true.
I had to do a lot of emotional stuff for Rooster Teeth. But emotional stuff for me, weirdly enough, and this might make me sound like a jerk, but is one of the things that's easier for me. I've always been an incredibly emotional person, and going there quickly and going there fastly has never been a problem for me. But it still proves to be difficult when the dialogue can catch you off of guard. So sometimes you can be totally prepared, but then you start doing the lines and you get emotional because you get really invested and you're like, oh, like you get a little choked up. So that can be difficult every once in a while as you get a little too like lost in what you're saying if you have something that's really emotionally challenging. But for the most part, I just do a lot of vocal exercises, make sure that my throat is ready. There's the stuff I use called Vocal 37 or something, opera singers use it, and it just...
It's steroids. It's steroids.
Not steroids. But it
Black
helps
tar heroin.
coat your throat for long sessions, especially when, I'm doing stuff for DC. I'm usually there for like 4 hours, and you're doing lots of efforts, and I'm doing lots of harpies and lots of like really vocally straining things. And so it's good to just make sure your throat's super lubricated.
In addition to imagination, I have also found that you can actually trick your body into feeling an emotion by replicating what you would do physically.
Yep.
So just kind of like, if you're supposed to be like scared, like starting to do the like, it can actually like bring you into that headspace really quickly.
I second that.
I do that as well. It's usually getting into the voice of the character. I'll just do it like on the way to recording. Max is a lot higher pitched. Son is really like me, but like not an asshole. But then the physicality, it's great. In the new booth, we have space. I think Max, like there's never a time I don't give a Max line where I'm not fucking pissed off. It has to happen. Garbo Man just turns into a piece of shit. And it just really helps.
You're Garbo Man?
Well, no, I do an impression of him.
Oh, okay.
For any character that I play, I like to find a character's theme song, and I listen to that on the way to the recording. It helps me get into the headspace, and that shifts depending on like the current emotion that the character's in. So like Happy Ruby is like the Lucky Star theme song, or Panty Stocking. Like, yeah, everything's good. Shout out, great shows. Sad Ruby, or Ruby dealing with a lot of crap right now, is Red Like Roses Part 2, and I'll listen to that and like cry, and then go into the booth. But there is a physicality element that I find for every character too, and it can be small because you're right, you don't want to like whack the microphone, but you have some room to move around. So for Ruby, like I take off my shoes. When I was just recording for Genlock, because she's piloting during the time, she's usually going to be on headset, so I was like holding my head like talking to someone, and that really helped me get into the mode.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I do physicality with it, just a slight one, especially when I'm doing the Flower Scouts, because I do them back to back to back. I don't do one character and all the way through, so I pop in and out, because it's easier to remember whose vocal range I'm in at that point, because then they start to kind of just sound the same. But I think what's hard, I love doing really physical ones. I love doing efforts. They're like my favorite things to do, because I go for it. It's hard to go when you have a really, like with Nora, I have like a lot of high energy, and then when she needs to go serious, when you go from the high energy, just because that's where you are probably in recording for that particular episode, and then you go to an episode it's actually not that, so you have to like shift your brain really fast. I have a little difficulty going into that, but once I'm there, like I'm pretty solid because I use my imagination and physicality to get me there.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, good question. How about for the rest of these questions? Let's try this. Go ahead and just aim your next question at a specific person, or get a little more specific. Like this one's just for the guys, the girls, the whatever, and then we can get more questions out there. So from over here, who's your question for?
Hi, Ruby Deco again. I've seen you like everywhere.
One last time. So my question is for people who have characters that have been around for a while, like at least 3+ years. Your characters have withstood the test of time. How does it feel to watch your characters grow and evolve beyond what they originally were in the beginning?
I'm going to be over here.
I'm
teasing.
Locust changed a bunch.
So I've been doing Wash for 11 years, and yeah. So I've been fortunate. I've looked back and I'm like, oh wait, like I don't think it was intentional, but I get cast as all these strangely unkillable, immortal soul weirdos for Rooster Teeth Productions. So I actually I like to view Wash and the Quartermaster and Ozpin as all one iteration of a gigantic Rooster Teeth oversoul. Unkillable. But no, anyway, yeah, Wash has gone through the most and is, each season is a different entity, so I just kind of play it as written on the page, and then it's like, oh, he's different, he's grown, he's changed as a person, and that's kind of cool to watch.
Yeah, I'll agree with that for sure. Watching the evolution of Carolina has been so awesome because when I first started out playing her, she's awesome, but it was sort of like your, one-dimensional badass, stereotypical, female warrior. And as the years have gone on, we've gotten to see a lot more dimension to her. And last season, I sang in a band with the Reds and Blues. So, that's some pretty insane character development.
If a show runs long enough, you always got to do the musical episode.
Wait till we adopt a scampy little child.
So yeah, it has been an absolute joy getting to see Carolina evolve and really become part of the family and not just this outsider. I've loved that. I've loved getting to do that. That's not very often. You don't get to grow with a character often like that. So I feel very, very lucky.
Good question.
Thank you.
Great. Next question.
Hey guys, so to save time, this will be directed at Barbara and Miles. So when you're already established as a character, like John and Yang, and you kind of go over the history and you reach a point where your character has a very significant scene for them personally, like Yang meeting her mom and John confronting Cinder, do you kind of just mentally go over specific details of your character to get in that moment, or are you just more like, go, and you have to just be in the moment?
It's cheating for me because I wrote that scene, and you draw from things that you know and like feelings that you've had and stuff like that. And so yeah, for whether it's acting or writing, I draw from stuff that I can relate to. And if you've ever been super fucking pissed at somebody, you can tap into that pretty easily because you never forget what that feels like. And so yeah, for me, a lot of times with acting, I try to equate. I try and understand what the character is going through and see if I have anything even remotely similar to that, just on the emotional range.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the best way to get into character ever is just reading the script and reading it over and over again and watching the episode beforehand or reading the script beforehand too, to know what the situation is. And these guys do such a great job at being very vivid in the details and the characters, and they're very fleshed out. So with a scene like that, with Yang meeting her mom, I feel like it's second nature for me to get into Yang's headspace because I've been with her for 5 years at this point, and I feel like I've known kind of the history of her going through all these emotions. So I just try to put myself in that place as you would do with any acting on camera or voice, and imagine what it would be like in that moment, meeting someone who you have all this anger and abandonment issues with.
And the physicality tip too. I can't stress that enough. Oh my God, it helps so much. Just clench your fist and just pace back and forth. You just trick yourself. It helps a ton.
It's also safer.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
also a thing that some of us have talked about, not intensely. Emotional recall, while occasionally useful, is super, super dangerous and can be really dangerous because you get lost. Physical recall tends to be a lot safer, and I know that's what I use most of the time.
Good
But just
question. Thank
I want
you.
to point that out.
Thank you.
Emotional recall
Thank
can
you,
be
thank
very,
you.
very
All right,
dangerous.
thanks, guys.
Thanks. Over here.
How do kids get into voice acting?
Oh my God.
Oh, good God.
Oh.
You just record yourself doing that, and somebody will hire you. I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Keep asking good questions at Q&A sessions. Yeah.
Oh, adorable.
Yeah, so we I guess we mostly talked about that before. There's a whole bunch of different ways. Record yourself, put it out there, or go get an agent, or do school plays, or do voices when you're playing with your friends. That's a great way to get started.
Just don't take the jobs away from us.
Barbara,
Thank
you've had
you.
your time.
Yeah.
People who pretend to be kids.
Next question.
Okay, so what was a role that was your least favorite or a role that you didn't particularly like being in?
I hated when they asked me to audition for David in Camp Camp.
I don't think I've ever had a role that I hated or didn't like or yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'm just always happy to get work. I mean, it's like
I'll do anything
Like
for
really?
money.
I mean, not necessarily
I've
that
had
you like
to-
hated the role or anything, but like something that was not your favorite.
I'm never a fan of commercial work, to be
Yeah.
quite honest. Like, I love characters more than going in there and talking about a bed and breakfast or I don't know, like kind of. It's not as fun, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Also, playing grunt soldiers in video games is really, really, really difficult because they're like, okay, we're going to record like the 50,000 ways you can die in this game. And so you have to like scream death screams for like hours in a row. And they're
Make
like,
'em different.
oh, that one sounded too much like the being burned to death scream. Can we get something different for the smashed by a boulder? So,
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, next one.
Hi, this is mostly for Jen, but it's by extension everyone because you've all inspired me. About 3 years ago at my first RTX, I came to this panel and I asked Jen pretty much, how did you get into it? How is it easy to get it with here? And you were very honest with me. You told me it was very difficult, but you told me not to give up. And over the last 3 years, I've been trying to hone my craft. It's been hard because I've been dealing with everything else. But over the last year, I've been really working on it, and you are been a huge inspiration with that. I've had an invite to go to New York to audition for a role for a video game. I auditioned for the Star Wars fan film that's I don't know, it's been buzzing around. I did that. And I also, thank you, and I also started my own, what I call RWBY, which is we're taking projects from the community, like fan fictions and stuff like that, and having communities audition and do voiceover and dubs and share their artwork and everything. And I've been bringing, just trying to spread the word at this RTX, and this really wouldn't be possible without all of you deeply inspiring me with Rooster Teeth and everything.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Get it. That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm so
I
glad.
know it's not a question, but I had to share that you guys are just freaking incredible, and I thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And can I give you some of these or no?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you
Thanks for
so
coming. Yeah, good luck with everything. I'll tell you what, this is going to be our last question. No pressure.
Speaking of Barry White ASMR.
Oh my God!
Oh,
Holy
yes.
cast that dude!
Oh my
Cast that dude!
Lord,
Oh, I
the
got the
velvet.
This question's actually aimed at Gray. For anyone that is actually stuck in commercial work and is trying to broaden their range, is there any advice that you can give out of being typecasted?
Oh man, yeah. I guess definitely put together your character reel also. So like depending on how your agent prefers you to submit material, they might just want to thank you. They might want to just if they only have one reel, you should still go ahead and prep your character voice reel anyway and just have it ready to go. And yeah, just do whatever you can to show some range on that particular reel. And you know, it could either be, if you're still trying to get going, then I would just go either find some scripts. There's a lot of scripts of currently established cartoons online. Borrow those. Do the voices that you think show off your range, or just even if you can't get your hands on the scripts, go whenever the next time you're watching a cartoon and you're like, I could do that part. Then just go ahead and write down whatever that line was, and then record you saying it and put that on your demo reel for the next time you caught one. And just don't be shy. Just keep putting it out there, man. Good luck though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think so.
But anyways, it's been a blast. Thanks to everybody who came and hang on the panel today. And anyone else, you say something? I thought you
No,
were
no, I was
okay,
just
but
waiting.
yeah, and have a fantastic last couple of hours of RTX 2018.
Thank you guys.